Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Green Bay Packers at the Washington Redskins and their NFC wildcard matchup played January 10th, 2016. So these two teams going at it for the first time as they did not face off in the regular season. The Packers entered this game on a 2-game losing streak. The Redskins entered the game on a 4-game winning streak. And we're going to go over every possession and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. And starting off, the Packers would get the ball first, but they would end up punting after 4 plays on their opening drive of this game. So now the Redskins would get the ball and they would be held to a 3-and-out. And so they would end up punting the ball back to the Pack. So now Green Bay would take over, backed up against their own end zone on their own 8-yard line after the punt. And then on 3rd and 13, this was after a false start on 3rd and 9, but on 3rd and 13 from the 5, Preston Smith sacks Aaron Rodgers in the end zone for the safety, and it was 2-0 Washington over Green Bay. So now the Packers would have to safety punt to the Redskins, and the Redskins would take over on their own 45 after the safety punt, and they would quickly get into Green Bay territory, and they would get down into the red zone when on 2nd and 7 from the 26, Kirk Cousins hit Jordan Reed for an 11-yard reception to make it a first down at the 15. So in the red zone, and on 1st and 10, Kirk Cousins goes to Deshaun Jackson, and it's a 15-yard touchdown. But wait a minute, they would actually take a look at it, and with Deshaun Jackson, the way he ran into the end zone in the right corner there, in that front corner, he just barely ran in, but his foot was out of bounds, and the ball was actually not in the end zone. So the ball never broke the plane, and so instead it would be 1st and goal on the 1. But they would not get it into the end zone. They actually had to delay a game on a 3rd and goal from the 2. And so then it was 3rd and 7, and an incomplete pass would end up bringing out the field goal unit on 4th down as Dustin Hopkins hit a 25-yard field goal for the first offensive points of the game. Technically, I guess you could say that's special teams, but it was 5-0 Redskins over the Packers with less than 5 minutes left in the first quarter. So now the Redskins defense would hold the Packers to a 3-and-out and force them to punt back to their offense. But then the Redskins were held to a 3-and-out as well. Some good defense right here during this stretch as the Redskins would then hold the Packers to another 3-and-out, as that was the second consecutive 3-and-out. And technically, I guess if you count the safety, was the drive before that. Of course, they would end up punting after the safety. But after this 3-and-out, they would punt it to the Redskins with about a minute and a half left in the first quarter. The Redskins taking over on their own 36. Then on 3rd and 3 from the 43, Kirk Cousins to Jordan Reed for a 20-yard reception. That brought the ball into the Packers' territory at the 37 as the first quarter came to a close. So in the first quarter, 5-0 Redskins over the Packers, as the Redskins looked to be in control early on, as the Packers were playing pretty sloppy, but good defense on both sides. So now to start off the second quarter, the Redskins would be faced with a 3rd and 10 on the 4th play of the second quarter, and that was from the Green Bay 24, and Kirk Cousins goes to Jordan Reed, and it's a 24-yard touchdown, and now they would go for the extra point, but it was no good, and so it was 11-0 with about 13 minutes left before halftime, the Redskins extending their lead. So now the Packers would take over after the touchback on the kickoff on their own 20. As I said, 13 minutes left before halftime. They would be faced with a 3rd and 4 from the 26 and an incomplete pass, but there was a penalty for the Redskins having 12 men on the field as the Packers were going up tempo. So a first down for Green Bay at their own 31, and then Rodgers goes to Jones. It's a 34-yard reception and a first down in Washington territory at the 35. Then on a 2nd and 1 from the 26, Starks picks up a yard for the first down. That was after a 9-yard pass by Adams on first down. But so now it was a 1st and 10 at the 25. Rodgers to Starks picks up 6. Then Cobb on an end around picks up 7 to make it a first down in the red zone at the 12. Then an incomplete pass brought up 2nd down. And on 2nd and 10 from the 12, Aaron Rodgers, he hurries up and he catches Washington off a guard. And they actually got called for 12 men on the field, but it would be declined because it was a 12-yard touchdown by Randall Cobb. So a 12-yard touchdown and the extra point by Crosby, and it was now a 4-point game as the Packers were finally on the scoreboard with a little over 9 minutes left before halftime with the score Washington 11, Green Bay 7. So now the Redskins would take over after the touchback on the kickoff. They'd actually convert on a 3rd and 6 from the 24 when Cousins went to Pierre Garçon. He picked up 12 yards, and Garçon's one of his favorite targets. He's one of the most targeted receivers in the NFL. So they pick up the first down there. Then they got another first down on a run by Thompson. He picked up 25 on a 2nd and 10 from the 36 to bring the ball into Green Bay territory at the 39. But then on first down, Kirk Cousins was sacked by Mike Neal. He forces the fumble and recovers. And so now the Packers would take over with about 6 minutes left before halftime with the ball at midfield at their own 46. And on 2nd and 10, Rodgers to Randall Cobb picks up 11. It's a first down now in Washington territory at the 43. Rodgers then goes to Jones. He picks up 9. Lacey then runs for 2, and it's a first down at the Washington 32. And then a penalty a couple plays later for offsides against the Redskins. And then after a run by Starks, it would be 3rd and 2. And an incomplete pass would bring out the field goal unit as Mason Crosby would attempt a 43-yard field goal. It was good, and it was now a 1-point game with the score Washington 11, Green Bay 10, with less than 3 minutes left before halftime. So now the Redskins would take over, but they would be forced to punt after 3 plays as they went 3 and out. And now the Packers would take back over with just under 2.5 minutes left in the second quarter. They bring the game to the 2-minute warning, and they came out of the 2-minute warning up near midfield at their own 45, 2nd and 5. And then a pass to Starks. He picks up 6, and now it's a first down to Washington territory at the 49. Then on a 2nd and 4 from the 43, Rodgers would go to Rodgers, the tight end. He picks up 5 and a first down at the 38. And then they were faced with a 3rd and 2 from the 30. Rodgers goes to Davante Adams. He picks up 20 yards in the first down in the red zone at the Washington 10. Then after an incomplete pass, 2nd and goal, Aaron Rodgers to Davante Adams, a 10-yard touchdown. Crosby adds the extra point, and the Packers were in the lead for the first time in this game with just 30 seconds left before halftime with the score 17-11. So the Redskins would bring the first half to a close as Cousins would take a knee. And in the first half, the Redskins, they score the first 11 points, but then the Packers in the final 9+ minutes of the second quarter would end up scoring 17 straight points. So 6-point lead for Green Bay at halftime, and Washington would get the ball first in the second half. They would start with it on their own 27. Cousins goes to Pierre Garçon. He picks up 21 yards and a first down near midfield at the 48. Then Alfred Morris runs for 19 yards, and it's a first down in Green Bay territory at the 33. They're then faced with a 3rd and 7 from the 30. Cousins goes to Crowder, but he's a yard shy of the first down with a 6-yard pickup. So now it's 4th and 1 from the Green Bay 24, a 6-point game with just over 11 minutes left in the third, and the Redskins elect to go for it, and Kirk Cousins ends up hitting Jordan Reed for a 17-yard reception, and it's a first down in the red zone at the 7. Then on 3rd and goal from the 3, Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk, takes it in himself, a 3-yard touchdown run. Hopkins adds the extra point, and now the Redskins were back in the lead with the score 18-17 with just under 10 minutes left in the third. So now the Packers would take over after the touchback on the kickoff on their own 20. They got a first down, and then they were faced with a 3rd and 1 from the 40. Rodgers goes to John Kuhn. He picks up 6 and a first down at the 46. Then on a 3rd and 1 at the Washington 45, Kuhn gets stopped for no gain, and so now it was 4th and 1 at the Washington 45. And the Packers now elect to go for it on 4th down. They give it to Eddie Lacy, and he picks up 11 yards on the ground. A first down at the 34. They give it back to Lacy, and he picks up 30 yards. His biggest run of the day. And it's a 1st and goal on the Washington 4 for the Packers. They give it to James Starks. It's a 4-yard touchdown. Crosby adds the extra point, and the Packers are back in the lead, 24-18, with a little over 4 minutes left in the third. So the big run by Lacy sets up the touchdown by Starks. And now the Redskins, we get the ball, but the Packers defense steps up big time and forces a 3-and-out. And now their offense would take back over on their own 24 after the punt, and they would end up moving the ball up to midfield when on a 2nd and 13 from the 35, Rodgers went to Randall Cobb. He picked up 15 yards, and that brought the third quarter to a close with the ball at the 50. So now to start the fourth quarter, 24-18 is the score. It's a 6-point game, and the Packers keep on moving. Starks picks up 11 on the ground, then 7 on the ground, then 3 on the ground, and now it's a first down at the 29. Then encroachment against the Redskins, and then Starks picks up 22 yards on a 1st and 5 from the 24. Now on 1st and goal from the 2, Eddie Lacy scores on a 2-yard touchdown. So first, Lacy set up a short touchdown for Starks, and now Starks sets up a short touchdown for Lacy. That's teamwork. The Packers go for 2, and it's Aberdaris, abracadabra. 2-point conversion successful with that pass from Rodgers, and with that score, it's now 32-18 as the Packers extend their lead to 14 points with 12.5 left in the game. So now the Redskins would take over on their own 20 after the touchback on the kickoff. They started moving the ball. They picked up a first down on 3rd and 1 from the 29 with a 12-yard run by Morris that brought it up to the 41. Cousins then went to Jordan Reed. He picked up 22 yards on this reception. He was ruled down, but he actually never was down, so they blew the whistles, and he would end up getting tackled all the way about around the 30, but they ruled him down at the 37. He actually might have even gotten further. But so now it's a first down at the 37, and the Packers defense comes up huge on this play. A sack, a combined sack by Nick Perry and Clay Matthews drops Cousins for a loss of 9. So now it's 2nd and 19, and a pair of incomplete passes would bring out the punting unit as the Redskins now would punt the ball with less than 9 minutes left in this game. The Packers would end up punting after 4 plays on their next possession, and now the Redskins would take over, backed up against their own end zone, down by 14 points of the ball on their own 9-yard line. Less than 6 minutes left in this game, and they would end up turning the ball over on downs when they were faced with a 4th and 10 from the 23, and that was after 6 plays on this possession. But on that 4th and 10, Kirk Cousins was sacked by Nick Perry. That turns the ball over on downs, and now the Packers would take over on the Washington 17, already in field goal range. They would not pick up a first down, but Mason Crosby would come out to kick a 29-yard field goal on 4th and 4 from the 11, and it was now 35-18 with just over 4.5 still left to play. So now the Redskins would get the ball on their own 15, and on first down, Cousins went to Thompson. He picked up 38 yards on a first down at midfield in Green Bay territory at the 47. Then on a 2nd and 3 from the 40, Cousins goes to Pierre Garçon. He picks up 19 yards, plus a roughing the passer, tacked on 10, and that would make it a first down in the red zone for the Redskins at the Green Bay 11. But then on 3rd and 9 from the 10, Cousins goes to Reed. He picks up 6. That brought up 4th and 3. And Cousins was sacked on 4th down yet again, this time by Mike Neal, as the Redskins turn the ball over for the 2nd consecutive possession. And now the Packers would take over on their own 20. They brought the game to the 2-minute warning. And then coming out of the 2-minute warning on 2nd and 7 from the 23, Eddie Lacy hit by Breland. He forces the fumble and recovers. And so now the Redskins would get the ball back on the Packers 32. They got down to the 15. They're in the red zone. And then Cousins on 3rd and 8 was sacked by Daniels and, you guessed it, Nick Perry. And that made it 4th and 17. They come up shy on a pass. It just picks up 11 yards, and they turn the ball over on downs for the third consecutive possession, and that was their final possession of the game, as all that was left to do was for Aaron Rodgers to take a knee in the victory formation, as the Packers win this one 35-18, and they're going to be going back to Arizona, their opponent from Week 16, and they're going to be facing the Cardinals in the divisional round of the playoffs. But for now, they won this game pretty decisively, as they fell down by 11 points early, but then they score 17 straight points. The Redskins come out strong in the second half, and they score a touchdown, but then the Packers respond with 18 unanswered points to finish this game. And what a game it was, especially by their defense, really keeping Cousins under pressure. 6 sacks for the Packers defense. Of course, forcing those 3 straight turnovers on downs as this game would come to a close. So the Packers, very dominant performance, very up-tempo, and their defense was just kept coming after the Redskins. And Aaron Rodgers in this game, 21 for 36, 210 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Eddie Lacy had 12 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown. James Starks, 12 carries for 53 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 receptions for 12 yards, giving him 65 total yards in the game. Randall Cobb had 3 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown, plus 5 carries for 24 yards, as he ended up with 62 total yards in the game. And James Jones, 7 catches for 81 yards. Devontae Adams, 4 receptions for 48 yards and a touchdown. And Aberdarius, 2 catches for 14 yards. And for the Redskins, Kirk Cousins, 29 for 46, 329 passing yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 yards off of 2 carries and a rushing touchdown. So 2 total touchdowns for Kirk Cousins. And then Alfred Morris, 11 carries for 50 yards in this game. Jordan Reed, 9 receptions for 120 yards and a touchdown. Chris Thompson had 8 catches for 89 yards. He also had 1 rush for 25 yards, as he ended up with 114 total yards in the game. And Pierre Garçon, 5 catches for 70 yards. Deshaun Jackson, just 2 catches for 17 yards. He kind of disappeared after that catch that almost was a touchdown. But for the kickers in this game, Mason Crosby was perfect for the Pack, as he was 2 for 2 on the field goals, 3 for 3 on the extra points. Dustin Hopkins, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 1 for 2 on the extra points for the Redskins. And on defense for the Packers, the sacks just kept on coming. Mike Neal, 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Clay Matthews, 1.5 sacks and a forced fumble. Nick Perry had 2 sacks. Mike Daniels had a half sack as well. So 6 sacks combined for the Packers. And for the Redskins, Breland had a forced fumble, and Preston Smith had a sack. That was that sack for a safety that put the first points on the board in this game. But we look at the team stats, 24 first downs for the Packers, as they were pretty evenly split with their rushing and their passing. A very balanced attack for the Packers. 20 first downs for the Redskins. On third down, the Redskins were 5 for 15, 33% conversion rate. The Packers 3 for 11, just 27% on third down. The Packers went for it once on fourth down. They did convert. The Redskins went for it 4 times, converting 1, turning the ball over 3 times in a row, actually. Just 25% conversion rate on fourth down. Total net yards in this game, 354 for Washington, 346 for Green Bay. On the ground, the Packers netted 141, and the Redskins netted 84. The Redskins actually averaged 0.3 more yards per rushing play at 4.7 versus 4.4. We look at total net passing yards rather. The Redskins 270, but they allowed 6 sacks for a total of 59 yards lost. And the Packers, they had 205 yards netted through the air. They allowed 1 sack for a loss of 5 yards. We look at the penalties in this game, not very many. 7 against the Redskins for 55 yards, 3 against the Packers for 23 yards. The Packers had 1 fumble that they lost in this game, and the Redskins fumbled the ball 3 times, recovered twice, and they lost 1. And then we look at the red zone And the Packers just dominated in the red zone on both sides of the ball as they made 5 trips to the red zone, coming away with 4 touchdowns. That's 80% in the red zone for the Packers offense. Then on defense for the Packers, they were able to stop the Redskins 3 out of 4 times as the Redskins made 4 trips to the red zone, came away with just 1 red zone touchdown. Of course, that was that one by Kirk Cousins there early in the second half as they took back the lead after losing the lead. And they were 25% in the red zone in this game as the Packers really shutting them down there as they were bending, but they weren't breaking. And then the time of possession was actually in the favor of the Redskins just slightly, 30 minutes, 27 seconds to 29 minutes, 33 seconds. So it's an interesting game. Started off, it actually looked like the Redskins might take it after the first quarter, but then Green Bay, once they got in gear, they just kept on rolling, and it looked like the Packers of old from postseasons past as they seemed to find what they had going back when they were 6-0, when they looked like one of the stronger teams in the NFC, but they had struggled in the second half of the season. And of course, those 2 tough losses before this game. But now the Pack's back on track. Of course, they're going to get a shot to go against the team that beat them by 30 points just 2 weeks ago, and that was in Arizona, and it's going to be back in Arizona, and that'll be interesting to see. Will the Cardinals be able to produce the same outcome twice? That's a tough thing to do. It's really tough to beat a team twice in the same season. Of course, we saw earlier in this day the Seahawks beat the Vikings for the second time this year. Of course, the first time around, it was a much easier, or at least a blowout game for the Seahawks, and then this one was a 1-point game. And is that going to be what happens with the Cardinals and the Packers? I definitely expect it to be a closer game than last time, but we shall see. It'll be interesting to see that one. But for this one, the Redskins in this game, they looked like actually they had made the adjustments at halftime when they came out and scored that touchdown. When Cousins scored, looked like it might be a game, but then there was a moment with about 10 minutes left in the fourth when they were down by 2 touchdowns, and that play where Jordan Reed got whistled down. But even regardless, on the very next play, the Packers defense comes up huge with that sack for the 9-yard loss, and that really seemed like it just put the nails in the coffin as the Redskins, at that point, they just kept turning the ball over on downs on the next 3 possessions. This Packers defense just seemed to get stronger and stronger as the game went on. And of course, in that second quarter, when the Packers offense went up-tempo, and then Aaron Rodgers was able to catch the Redskins with 12 men on the field twice, and then they get that touchdown as they put their first points on the board, and they seem to get some momentum going at that point. And then the running game in the second half coming up huge. Eddie Lacy with that big 30-yard run to set up the touchdown by Starks. Then Starks with that 22-yard run setting up the touchdown by Lacy. As you saw, it was total teamwork by the Packers, and they were firing on all cylinders. A very balanced attack as they were doing it through the air and on the ground. And then their defense was playing their best defense that they played all year. And they put up a lot of points against the Redskins team. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's just the Redskins. They're just the champs of the NFC least, the NFC East. But the Redskins were 6-2 at home this year. And in Washington, the Redskins, they averaged about 26 points and only let up about 18 points. So no small feat for the Packers to put up 35 in Washington against the Redskins defense that played far better at home than they had played on the road this year. So they're actually a much stronger team at home, as some people might think, oh, well, look at the Redskins team that struggled on the road and was, 3-5 on the road, but they were 6-2 at home. So it's not like as if they beat nobody here. The Redskins actually, they had a good season, and they won their last 4 games. They won their way into the playoffs, whereas the Packers kind of stumbled into the playoffs. At one point they were undefeated early on in the season, but then they struggled down the stretch. They still ended up getting into the playoffs, but now it is the playoffs, and when the Packers, the last time they won the Super Bowl, was as a wild card team, so they are dangerous, just like the Steelers over there in the AFC. It's the Steelers have also won the Super Bowl as a wild card team. And actually, this is the 4th road team to win in wild card weekend, as the road teams were undefeated in the wild card round of the playoffs in both the AFC and the NFC. Both of them 2-0. As we end up seeing Kansas City go to Houston and beat the Texans. And then we see Pittsburgh win in Cincinnati, then Seattle and Minnesota, and then Green Bay and Washington. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and having a great weekend and enjoying all the sports.